The first to bring you the hottest DJ gear on the planet. We are agiprodj.com.
Hello everybody, it's DJ Ty from agiprodj.com. Today we're taking a look at the brand new XDJ-R1 from Pioneer. It is another controller available from Pioneer, but this time around, software-wise, instead of using Serato, they are focusing on their own software, which is a combination of rekordbox, which has existed for quite a while now, and RemoteBox, which is their application that runs on an iOS device and an Android device. So what does RemoteBox do? From a phone or a tablet, you can control the surface of the R1 remotely, wirelessly. The actual R1 controller has the ability to create an ad hoc wireless network, and you can connect your iOS and Android devices running this application to the controller. So you can control faders, you can control effects, the EQ, you can engage and disengage the mic, you can load tracks, you can browse tracks. The things that you can do with this controller are actually quite substantial. So in addition to the rekordbox, RemoteBox functionality, they included CD drives, and they also gave you the ability to turn the controller into a MIDI surface, a MIDI controller, and then use it with the included virtual DJ software. So you've got CDs, you've got music off of USB that's been playlisted, analyzed, and set up using the rekordbox. You've got RemoteBox, which lets you wirelessly control the face of the R1, and then you've got the ability to use it as a MIDI controller. So Virtual DJ comes with it. Look out for a tractor mapping soon, I'm sure. This thing's chock full of features. Let's go ahead and take a closer look, the XDJ-R1. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the mixer section first. We'll go ahead and start at the top. What you have here are your input selectors, either Deck 1, Deck 2 that's playing rekordbox tracks off the USB drive, or phono line input. The WLAN light will illuminate when you have a RemoteBox controller connected to the system. We'll go down one of the channel strips. You've got a trim, your gain trim for your input, 3-band EQ with infinite kill. You have access to 4 effects: noise, pitch, crush, and filter. Standard channel up fader. You have Q1 and Q2, so you can cue each individual channel or both at the same time in the headphones. You have your crossfader curve adjustment, so through just completely disables the crossfader, and then you've got a pretty mellow curve and then a rather steep curve, and then it's got a standard crossfader. Up here is your input for a USB drive. This 5-volt connector does supply 500 milliamps of power, so you should be able to connect a fairly substantial hard drive to this. And the purpose of this is basically to have a hard drive that has rekordbox analyzed files. rekordbox is Pioneer's software. You set up your playlists, do all your tagging and everything ahead of time in rekordbox. You connect it up here. This will let you play the files on each of the decks on the R1, and then you can control and manipulate, browse, and load tracks using RemoteBox through the app. Here's your master level, master output right there, booth output. You have an aux channel on the R1. You can enable it and disable it. You also have a gain control of that, and it has a single mic input right here that you have gain control, and you've got a sweepable EQ from low to high. So now we're going to go over one of the decks on the R1, and these are identical on both sides, so we're going to go ahead and just cover one. Here's your input selector, so you've got the ability to choose from USB, so again, the hard drive that I mentioned in the mixer side. You can pick CD. The R1 does have a traditional CD drive inside, huge bonus there. And then MIDI, so you've got the ability to use the R1 surface as a MIDI controller for DJ software such as Virtual DJ that's actually packed in with the R1. Standard Pioneer CDJ type readout. You've got the ability to pick what time elapsed, time remaining. You can hold this in and turn on and off auto cue, which is great. It means when you load up a track, if auto cue is enabled, it's going to go to the beginning of the track and then cue it. If this isn't enabled, when you load up a track, the track's going to automatically play, so I can see where there would be uses for both configurations. This is your info buttons, which gives you track title and information. You can change the screen. This shows you some of the effects setting. You hold this button in and that gets you into the utility menu. This is for navigating your USB connected drives. You rotate this knob, you can browse through folders by pressing the knob in, and then you can use this to navigate backwards. It's labeled back. If you hold it in, as you can see there with the long dash, that basically in Pioneer language means hold this in to do a different function. And here you have an eject button, which will eject the CD out of the drive. This is your effects section right here. You've got some beat effects. You've got a transformer, flanger, echo, and roll. This is your wet dry or your level or depth fader as Pioneer calls it. You tap this to do a BPM sync for your effect. As you can see here, it's giving me a BPM. Or you can use this knob here. As you can see, it's going from 1/16, 1/8, 1/4, 1/3, all the way up to a count of 64. And those are your beat effects section. Vinyl mode is standard on most CDJs these days, so when it's not illuminated, the entire platter becomes a pitch bending surface. When you have vinyl mode enabled, now your platter actually becomes a scratching surface. So this is your auto beat loop knob. As you can see here, it's labeled. It does have an LED for illumination. If I had an actual loop engaged, that would illuminate, but you can see here on the display it says loop 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, 1, half a loop, quarter, eighth, all the way down to 1/32 of a loop. Track navigation buttons. This is the shift button. As you can see, there are some labels underneath certain things on the R1. So if you're setting a hot cue or a sampler, you hold this shift button down and then you can delete hot cues that you may have set. Standard cue and play pause buttons seen on just about every Pioneer CDJ and Pioneer controller out there. These three buttons have two different functionalities. They're hot cues, which is enabled with an LED there. You press mode again and this actually becomes a 4-beat sampler. You have tempo adjustment. You can do plus and minus 6, 10, and 16. Master tempo, which is key lock, keeps your tracks from sounding like Alvin and the Chipmunks or Marvin Gaye, and that would be inappropriate if it was not Marvin Gaye or Alvin and the Chipmunks playing. So master tempo is great, keeps your tracks in pitch and in tune even when your tempo increases or decreases. Here's your pitch adjustment, plus and minus. Again, you have that ability to set that range up here on the tempo button. And then here's the syncing, and you know, evil for some people, not evil for other people. Let's face it, it seems like just about everything out here has sync on it. It's here to stay. Use it if you want, don't use it if you don't want to. So you basically press master, and now this is telling the system that this is going to be the deck that it sets the master BPM tempo off of. So if I have a track on here that's 122 and I set sync and I load a track over here that's 125 and I press sync again on the other deck, it's going to synchronize the BPMs of this track. It's going to reduce the BPM number to match the BPM on this deck. So that is the actual deck surface of the R1. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the front panel of the controller and then the rear. There are traditional CD decks included in this controller. So DJs, if you got an emergency folder of CDs, the R1's great for you because you do have access to those. And this is where your headphone jack is located. You've got a 1/4 inch and an 1/8 inch headphone input on the front of the R1. So here's the back panel of the R1. As you can see, it does have XLR master output, which is great. You have a secondary set of RCA master out, so you could use that to record. Booth out is RCA on the R1. You have a 1/4 inch mic input. Here's that auxiliary input that I was talking about. What's very cool is it has a selector switch on it. So with those RCA inputs, you can set it to 0 dB, which is a pretty flat input, or it's got a 12 dB bump for portable players. So you could come out of an iPhone or an iPod or an Android phone that might not have that hot of an output, and that's going to give you a nice strong signal coming into that auxiliary port. Here's phono 2 and line 2 selectable again, like I mentioned right there with the switch there. So you can choose to hook up a turntable, a phono in, or a line in. And then there's phono 1 and line 1. Here's that USB connection. So if you put it in MIDI mode to use with software, that's where you would connect that USB cable up to go to your computer. And then again, way to go Pioneer, it's got IEC power in. So the transformer and everything is built inside of the controller. And then it also includes that Kensington lock. Those little notches right there are where the mobile phone cradle hooks up to. Pioneer does suggest to not put a tablet on that phone cradle. It is just designed for an iPhone iPod Touch or an Android phone. So again, just phone size controllers on that. Okay everybody, so that's it, an around the world tour of the brand new Pioneer XDJ-R1 controller. We went through the mixer section, we went through the deck section, we went through the front and the back of the controller. We briefly touched on how you can actually control it using an iOS or an Android device. The features that this thing is loaded up with are rich. The price tag is affordable, comes in at $8.99, free shipping and no sales tax from your authorized Pioneer dealer, agiprodj.com. Thanks so much for watching today. I'm DJ Ty. Make sure you hit us up on the website, agiprodj.com. You can email us, sales@agiprodj.com. Toll free, we're available, 866-776-6499. And you can hit us up on the instant messenger on the website. Again, thanks for watching our videos. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, make sure you follow us on Twitter, get connected with us online with Google+. Make sure you check out this thing. It's very cool at $8.99, the XDJ-R1. Thanks so much for watching.